one thing and create it every day and build on it. In a way, it's kind of like the compound effect. Because when you create, when you're in that art of creation and you build, you could have a library that could leave the world behind and remember you for it when you leave it behind. And they will remember your name. What happens if you don't create? Let's just say if you say, I'm going to do this one unhealthy habit, and you build on it, you could lead to destruction because of it. However, if you exercise, you do different things, you let life not bother you, and you move on, you carry on, and you do your way, life can be better than expected. Now let's just say if I say, I'm going to read a few words of a book and I'm going to build on it. I'm going to read here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Things can go in a happier motion. And then, out of nowhere, something is built. This is what the Joseph Evaldi brand is. It's rebuilding. It's rebuilding and it's restructuring. Now, as I mentioned in previous podcasts about Seth Rollins, when he messed up his ankle or knee or torn his, not his ankle, but he tore his meniscus or something like that. Sorry about my wording, of butchering up at the word, but when he tore his meniscus knee, he had to rebuild again. He had to face all the BS, he had to go through rehab, and he had to get it back. Maybe whatever he wanted didn't come right away, but he's still working for that dream, and he will achieve it one day. But he got it. He got a title again. So he's happy and he's content. But I know damn well he would want more from his life. And he works on it every day. Just like this with the Joseph Evaldi brand. It works on itself every day. And it fights for the right to write. It fights for the right to do art and to be creative. Because in creation, it lives. And it faces whatever it could face. Sometimes art, as my friend would say, art breeds art. But I'm going to say this. When you're in the art of creation, something magical takes place. Something that can't be explained in words. When I'm doing a podcast like this, it's just one sector. But I can make it interesting with a guest. The guest could be me. The guest could be Slow-Mo Joe. Who is Slow-Mo Joe? Slow-Mo Joe was a guy who came around before the Wolfman was born. Before Wolfman Joe. Slow-Mo Joe, for those who remember me in high school. Slow-Mo Joe. Somebody who was a writer. Somebody who was a poet. Somebody who wanted to convey his words, to be a part of everything, that he fought endlessly to become his own identity. He was a goaltender. He was a goaltender. He had his words. They called him Slow-Mo Joe because he couldn't pick up on things very quick. Slow-Mo Joe, my friend, had a greater vision in mind. Something that incarnation couldn't complete. Slow-Mo Joe was the one who wrote the passage of Joe, which was available, but will be available later soon. He had discontent in his heart. He had trouble with women because he was afraid to speak to them, and then when he did, his heart would get crushed because he was fixated on the woman who he liked. Slow-Mo Joe, he was accepted, but he wasn't exactly popular till Wolfman Joe came around. See, Slow-Mo Joe is very important because when Slow-Mo Joe was around, well, Slow-Mo, let's just say, writing of Joseph Evaldi would not be possible if there wasn't a Slow-Mo Joe. Because Wolfman Joe wasn't around then. He wasn't born. Slow-Mo Joe wrote. He was a writer. He was a writer who did a lot of things. In February of junior year, Slow-Mo Joe dabbled with quotes. He dabbled with words until he came up with something called the passage of Joe. Yes, Slow-Mo Joe did this. And why am I discussing this in a very own New Year's podcast? Because Slow-Mo Joe had a dream of being a very good writer. Didn't know it at the time. But if I could say some of the best stuff that was written in that time was done by Slow-Mo Joe, that the favorite poem of all time, which I will later read on this podcast, because this podcast is new and everything, which I will close the podcast with. A poem. Every podcast will close with a poem. And you know why? It's a reminder of what was born. Because when the incarnation of Wolfman Joe came around, he had fire and he had passion. And he wanted to convey the words necessary. Thus, the birth of the muse, Wolfman Joe. and Joseph Evaldi. Going on break. I'm running on dead air if anyone knows. But I have a lot of time. I'm going to get some poems. I'm going to read one to end this podcast. I'm going to do some plugs. And then we're going to wrap it up. Remember, it's a new way of doing things. So, take it off air. I'm back at the podcast, and from what I'm going to read tonight is from a book of The Apparitions of a Warrior, a book written by me, Joseph Evaldi, and it's a very good book of poetry. Nice prose and everything else. As you know, the feel of the Joseph Evaldi podcast has shifted as we enter into the new brand, and just as I invoke the words Slow-Mo Joe, we'll have another meaning of this. Maybe we'll get Wolfman Joe as a guest. Maybe we'll get the Wolfman, you never know, but Slow-Mo Joe is a cool cat, a cool dude. You know, he was slow-mo, did things slower. You know what? He was a writer, and he wrote words. And I have an archive of many stuff that's written. Some of them were rhyming. And you know what? He loved to rhyme. Yes, Slow-Mo loved the rhyming. Slow-Mo Joe wrote this poem, and it could be found in Apparitions of a Warrior. In that time of year, it is that time of year. It is where the flowers are here. This is the month of May. Love tends to blossom throughout this day. The calm feeling in us grows. The heat begins and grows. It is time for a relaxing drink. It is time to feel the water as it goes down the sink. It is still in time, this time of year, that the people meet, for it is time for romance. And this is a treat. The new songs from the band are here. The mingling down the shore is there. It's that time of year where it is not the same. For in the month of May, it is time to play a game. Powerful words by me, or shall I say Slow-Mo Joe. But I'm going to captivate this time, and I'm going to discuss something else from